Hey guys, what is up and welcome to a new Nvidia daily update video. So today, as per usual, let's talk about Nvidia. Let's talk about what the stock is doing, what we can expect from Nvidia moving forward, moving into what could be maybe a bit of a painful day tomorrow in the markets. I'll explain why I think that is or has a potential to be. And yeah, I'll give you my thoughts moving forward. So if you enjoyed, don't forget to hit that like button. This is not financial advice. I am not a financial advisor. And of course, if you enjoy my analysis, I do have a membership section on YouTube. That link is down below where I share my intraday thoughts, post updates. All those were posted literally just shared today. $3 a month. Link is below for Tesla and other stocks as well. Or for $5 a month, you get access to all of that plus Nvidia daily updates as well. But yeah, all that being said and done, ladies and gentlemen, jumping right into it, Nvidia closing the day up about 2.25%, closing at we'll just say just shy of $149 per share, just $1 away from our next target of $150, which again doesn't have to hit it perfectly. I think this is pretty close enough. I was telling my members about this morning, how I expected to hit this level. Well, I didn't really say when. I expected to hit it next, right? Essentially, whether that's today or tomorrow is irrelevant. The point is it hit it today, which is great. Now, let's talk about it. What's happening, and is this bullish? Is it maybe going bearish, or what do I see? Now, let's start with the bearish side. I want to give the bears a little bit of something, because I feel like the bears have just not been eating well lately, right? This market has been ripping, and anyone trying to short this market has been getting absolutely clobbered. This is why I don't short. This is why I almost like very rarely short, because it's just hard to bet against this kind of market, right? I'd rather miss gains than actually lose gains as it's rising. That's like the worst case scenario. Imagine losing gains while the market's ripping like this. Or not losing money. Anyway, whatever, you get the point. So Nvidia, interesting spot. This is the bearish take, right? I'm going to put in my bearish hat for a bit. We'll talk about the bearish scenario and what maybe can happen. So Nvidia, you can see if we bring out this channel, there's potentially a situation here where maybe we're closer to the top than you might want to be, because look at this, right? If you take these lines and kind of make this a little channel, whether it's a rising channel, a rising wedge, whatever, we're arguably at the top of it right now. Now, whether or not this actually ends up being the top, obviously is another question, but you can see, every single time we've touched it roughly, we have rejected, and sometimes in some cases pretty significantly. This one obviously wasn't as bad, but nonetheless a rejection regardless. So that's kind of the thing I'm eyeballing right now, right? This is a potential catalyst for a potential sell-off moving forward, and a potential small correction from here. So watch for this. Now again, look, my issue with trend lines is this, right? And trend lines are great, but they're subjective, right? They are subjective at the end of the day, because, well, is it drawn like this, or maybe there's another way you can put it. Maybe you can put it like this and bring it down like this, and hey, maybe we actually broke above it. I don't know. There's just so many ways to draw trend lines. That's why I don't put too much weight into trend lines. Just take them as you will. It's with a bit of a grain of salt in my opinion, but nonetheless, it's just something worth mentioning. And the other thing worth mentioning is the fact that we are setting up a bearish, like actual bearish divergences on the RSI and the stochastic, where essentially as the stock is making higher highs, the stochastic on the RSI are, well, making lower highs. Same with the RSI, lower highs, right? It hasn't even broke this high back here when Nvidia was at, let's take a quick look at it. This one, Nvidia was at all the way over here at around 143. We're at pretty much 150, and we're still making a lower high on the RSI. That is a bearish divergence, right? So watch for that moving forward. That is definitely a sign of concern, right? I'm not saying it's gonna have to be bearish for sure, but again, we're putting on the bearish hat here. It's always good to look at both sides, but that's kind of the main thing I'll be looking at for the bearish side. Now, if we do reject, if Nvidia does sell off from here, obviously the first main level to watch for is the previous all-time high sitting at around 144, followed by the next level sitting around 140, 135, and then the major level I still personally believe is about 130, because if Nvidia loses 130, then I actually will start getting a bit more bearish. But that's kind of that perspective. Now, the bullish perspective is the fact that, well, there's really no reason to actually, honestly be truly short this market. Now, you can start making some arguments if we drop below 144, drop below that all-time high and start closing below it. Okay, there are some small arguments to be made. At the very least, maybe, being bearish up until it comes back down to this band and retest this band, which, if that were to happen, let's say sometime next week, would probably bring us somewhere in the 135s or so. Okay, there is some arguments to be made about that. But ultimately, again, as long as Nvidia is above this band, and ultimately, as long as it's above 130, I ultimately see no overall reason to be bearish on the stock. I just view those as opportunities. So, for instance, if I see Nvidia make its way back down to this band, again, 135 or below, anywhere between 135 to 130, to be completely honest, I'm excited. I'm an excited buyer. I will absolutely be entering the stock. I will absolutely be, swing trading that with, of course, the obvious stop losses I just mentioned, right? I think that's going to be a very favorable spot. Again, up here, I'm personally not excited. more of the bearish scenario. Hopefully you guys can hear outside. There's a lot of noise outside. Hopefully you guys don't hear that. But, you know, we are in overbought territory on the bands over here. You can see we are at the second level of overbought, right? Not quite there at the most extreme level, which, you know, Tesla, for instance, is. It's actually beyond the extreme. But nonetheless, it is sitting in overbought territory along with the market, right? The market, you know, is sitting in slightly overbought, or even in some cases for QQQ, pretty close to extreme overbought territory. So the market's very, very frothy here, extremely frothy. Now, I mentioned how tomorrow might be a bit of a pain day. Why did I say that? Well, we had FOMC today, and the market clearly reacted, well, pretty positively to it, right? Definitely no issues whatsoever from the market, pretty much closing near the highs of the day, at least for QQQ, and SPY not far off of it. Now, usually when you have FOMC, and you have markets reacting fairly positively to it the same day, more often than not every single time, right? Obviously, nothing is guaranteed in the market, but from my experience, 80% of the time, the day after, it does the opposite move. It does like the quote unquote real move, and it actually does whatever the opposite was of the response right after JPOW, essentially. And in this case, the JPOW response right after he finished and pretty much during it was positive. So naturally, because of that, as of right now, I do expect a negative reaction tomorrow. Will it actually happen or not? Nobody knows. It's obviously not something that anyone can predict with any actual certainty, but that is, if I had to take a guess, would be what I think would happen next. And if the market were to correct from here and the market were to kind of calm down from this extremely enthusiastic levels, at the first level I'll be looking for SPY is about 585, and QQQ, the first level I'll be looking at for QQQ will be about closer to $500 per share, right? And that's pretty much the way I'll be eyeballing it. Or if we drop below that, pretty much right back to the band. Right back to the band on both of them. So yeah, that's probably the main way I'll be looking at it. And again, if the markets do that, don't forget Nvidia does pretty closely follow the market. So the Nvidia will most likely follow suit as well, which again, in my opinion, can potentially bring it all the way back down to about the 135s to retest this band, which would be a bit of a drop from here. Obviously that is not, you know, a small drop, but nonetheless, it is going to be about a 9% drop. Again, whether or not that happens, I don't know. But ultimately, what I will say is the fact that as long as it stays above the bands, as long as it holds 130, I see no reason to be bearish on the stock overall. Maybe some short-term bearishness here because there's quite a lot of euphoria. But ultimately, looking back at it, looking at it, you know, in a more zoomed out fashion, I see no reason to be bearish on the stock unless it breaks those levels. Like I said, it still looks damn good. And if you're shorting the stock and even shorting it, especially during this run-up, good luck. That's all I'm going to say. Good luck with that one. So anyway, going to options flow for Nvidia, let's take a quick look at how the bulls were stepping in today. And as usual, the bulls were stepping in. You had a 3 million call come in for December 20th. You had a $400,000 call come in for literally tomorrow, which is absolutely ridiculous. You had some puts come in though. You had, you know, about 3 million almost of puts over here coming in for early next year. So, you know, a little bit of a mix today. You're not just full bullish, right? You know, I think the bulls obviously still overwhelm the bears as per usual, but you know, the bears are starting to finally step in on Nvidia a bit here. You know, they're not letting the bulls take over completely. I'm not sure how accurate this is. I mean, this says it's a 700 million confirmed flow on Nvidia. I mean, if that's the case, that's pretty significant. I actually think I did see something pretty insane on Nvidia. Let me just give me 20 seconds here as I scroll down. I think it was Nvidia where I did actually see something that was, I think it was Nvidia. I don't remember for sure, but I swear it was, might have been Tesla. I remember I saw some pretty absurd number, but it was a split, which to me implies that it was most likely just several trades put into kind of one package. I think it was, oh here, yeah, it was this one here. So you can see on Nvidia about just before 2 p.m. It was a split, right? It was a split, but nonetheless, 300 million and 360 million came in on Nvidia as calls for December 20th at 125 and 135, both in the money. But again, when I see something like this, that's just too crazy. I'm not really sure what to make of this. There's probably a lot behind the scene that, you know, you can actually dive into, and maybe if someone knows better than I do how to read this properly. I'm not a huge options reader, I'll be honest. I don't follow option chain that much, but maybe someone that knows better can, you know, maybe in the comments below let me know. But yeah, hey, that's something pretty crazy, and that's probably why this number is astronomical over here. So to make that what you will do, because yeah, I don't know. But again, regardless, like I said, above 130. And especially in the 130 to 135 range, that is a sweet spot. And I see no reason to be bearish on the stock. But ultimately, yeah, that's all I got. Well, let me know what you think down below. See you tomorrow. Peace.